request Professor Pulav Ghosh, if you could kindly come up to the stage, sir. And of course, the session would be moderated and addressed by Dr. Prithvish Mukherjee. Dr. A.S. Ramashastri is the Director, IDRBT, has joined as the Director of the Institute in March 2014 and took over as the Director of the Institute on October 24, 2014. Dr. Ramashastri brings with him very rich experience both in academics as well as administration. Prior to joining the Institute, Dr. Ramashastri was the Chief General Manager in charge of Department of Information Technology at Reserve Bank of India. In the RBI, he has spearheaded many important projects including the implementation of the next generation RTGS, adoption of international standards like XBRL, ISO 2022, conceptualizing and guiding of banks on automated data, and preparation of IT vision of RBI for 2011-17. Dr. Ramashastri has been a member of the Institute's Governing Council, member of faculty of the RBI Staff College, and has authored 2 books on quantitative methods for valuation of assets and quantitative methods for banking and finance, and the former has been published in Chinese too, apart from quite a few articles on finance, banking and IT in eminent journals and newspapers. He has guided the Bank of Mauritius, Bank of Malaysia, Bank of Uganda on implementation of data warehouse, XBRL, etc., and delivered talks on standards and technology for data reporting at the International Monetary Fund and Bank of International Settlements. Dr. Ramashastri holds a PhD in Finance from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and was the top ranker in MSc Statistics from Madras University and BSc Statistics from Loyola College, Madras. He has attended advanced management programs at the University of Oxford and Kellogg School of Management. Over to Dr. Prithvish Mukherjee.
Good afternoon, everyone, and back here again for the session with the academicians. We have Dr. Ramashastri with us. He has a flight to catch, so we have positioned him the first. And so may I ask Dr. Ramashastri to kindly give his views on the role of institutions, the key partners.
Good evening. Before I start, let me make a thing very light. See, one of the P.T. Odo's novels, there is an incident in the house. Without knowing, one after another they start coming and singing the same song. I don't know how many of you have read that. So song is sung by the first person, and the second person also sings. The third person also sings, and by the time the fourth person starts singing, there is all around commotion. Hopefully these presentations of ours don't turn out like that. Although we don't sit through the entire thing, we try to bring the perspective that we are having from our own side. So there could be some conceptual things which are being taught by all of us. I think we got to please bear with that. And what I would like to talk, what I call it as the banking on analytics. So banking is a word which is very close to us, because I worked with Reserve Bank of India for quite some time, and there we have did a little bit of work on how banks can work on analytics. And in my present role as the Director of IDRBT, which is an institute which is set up for the banking technology things, we work a lot about this analytics also. But I would like to focus on the type of work that happens in institutions. I also want to give a very small brief introduction as to why these institutional things come. See, a lot of work is happening on analytics across the globe. There are companies which need to use them, and similarly the banks which have to use. There is a gap. The gap is that the actual user, that's a bank or a company, needs to understand what this analytics is, how to convert it into a useful thing for the concerned corporate or the bank. But this kind of role has to be taken up by some institutions. So these institutions can work closely with the academic side on the one side, where a lot of research is happening on analytics, and the practical side, which is the banks, which is what we deal with, or with the corporates, where how to convert this analytics into meaningful way they will be able to make use of for their respective organizations. I think that's what this particular session can be considered to be. At least that's what I would like to present from the point of view of IDRBT. So these are all, very general things which I would like to skip quickly, but go to the actual banking little later. But these questions keep coming to us. Now, what is the impact of a sale on the sale of a profit of a new product or introduced? What is the general opinion in the market? These are all what was discussed also. Who is the ideal customer to whom you can make a personal offer of the product or service? In fact, we move more to services than to products, particularly in banking. What will happen if you make some changes for the product and service? Are there any demographic-based linkages among product, services, defaults and frauds? I mentioned these 5 questions because though we put the entire thing under analytics, there are different ways in which these analytics work. And but each question has to be addressed by a different part of the analytics that is going to be there, which is what I want to position. The first question, which is generally understanding, is actually attempted by business intelligence, which most of us are already using it for quite some time. But when it comes to opinion mining and all those things which give a descriptive kind, that will be a descriptive analytics part of the thing. And most of the time now what we are talking is it possible to have a predictive analytics? Can we use analytics to predict certain things? But most important, and many of us would be interested is, what is the impact if I take a particular decision on a result? And that comes under prescriptive analytics part. And then the data mining, where it is hidden meaning. We don't know what we are exploring, but still we should be able to make some meaning out of the unknown things. A lot of data is available. We really don't even know what question to ask, but this system should be able to help me to find out some hidden patterns and all that and try to give something to me. So these are all 5 different parts of the analytics which we'll be using, either business intelligence, descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics and also data mining. We have to keep them as distinct things because depending on the question we may have to use the concerned thing which is useful to us. The need of the hour is what I think I would focus particularly in the context Indian. This makes a very important event because the New Age Analytics Hub that is going to be started, the analytics is something which the country has to look the next few years, all of us, the companies and also the banks. Banks more because they are the people who drive finance. So the decision making is more at the banks when compared to some of the companies. What we need is relevant quality data. This is the biggest issue most of us have, the quality data and the relevant data. The quality is a very serious issue, but quality can be addressed provided we start using these things more. Actually, data warehouses, data marts, business intelligence to a great extent help us in cleaning the data and get a more correct data. So the process of analytics actually is going to address the quality issue also. Then we need qualified data scientists. Of course, it's a new terminology most of us use. The meaning is the people who can work on these areas which I was suggesting, analytics. Now we need people who understand and will be able to use it. And this is a very peculiar domain. Let's understand this. On one side you have technology, on the other side you have a lot of mathematics statistics going. And the third type is a domain where we have to use it. If it's a bank, if it's a corporate. So this particular person should be able to understand the capability of the technology, the mathematical modeling that is required for that, and ultimately use it in the sense that is useful for a particular domain or business. So this set of people are not very easily available. It's a very rare breed even today, and probably we need more of them, the qualified data scientists. And then this cannot be done by an individual company or a bank. This needs a lot of coordinated efforts by all the concerned in this particular area. And I think this is where these conferences and others help a lot. We all sit together and try to understand what are the needs and try to have a coordinated approach towards putting analytics in place. And focused applied research by institutions. Fundamental research will help us in giving good algorithms. But how to use it? Now this would be the focused applied research area which the companies have to do, and that's where the institutions will play a major role. Institutions like IDRBT or IIMs, all those things can play a major role in bringing the fundamental research that is happening in the academic world to the actual use that is necessary in the banks and the companies wherever it is. It's a focused applied research. In case of banks, that's what I would like to position IDRBT. In case of banks, IDRBT has initiated the process with the support of the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? We have Reserve Bank of India, the regulator on one side, the banks on the other side, and the academic institute. All of them we work together. Because I just don't want to talk too much about IDRBT, but it's a very unique constitution because it is established by Reserve Bank of India. The Reserve Bank of India has established a technology research institute basically to help the banks in using latest technology, and we work very closely with all of the stakeholders. And we have an analytics center. I just want to highlight only on this. We have an analytics center. Now what is the need of this analytics center? Any bank that has got a data and which has to put an analytics wing in its own place, it needs to actually understand what are the analytical capabilities and also understand what are the requirements that are necessary for the particular banking thing. I'll come to a few examples in the next slide, but this is where the center is playing a major role. Individual banks come with the data, or a group of banks also come, and we actually help all the banks to sit together and try to find a way of these analytics things in that. And we have got dedicated faculty and research scholars for that. The three areas which I want to touch: the customer relationship management, risk management, and fraud analytics. Most of us have discussed this part of it because this is common to all, not only for the banks but even for other corporates. How to retain customers, how to find a product which is most suitable to a particular customer, how to give a targeted marketing, and particularly in the case of banks, how do you actually position a credit card and whom do you want to give it. Now, whether anything is additionally possible for you to add a service on the credit card. But this is something which we all have discussed. But the other two areas are very specific to banks. One is the assessment, how to assess a credit. When you want to give a loan, now how do you make an assessment? What are the characteristics that come under that? What are the behavior analysis that has to go into it? What is the analytics that has to take place into it? What is the sector from which he has to come? So this is lot of work has to be done. So this can be done provided you use the appropriate analytics for making a credit assessment. How to classify the borrower, whom do you want to give. Similarly, portfolio management. Actually, bank does two things, either it lends or it invests. In both the cases, analytics is useful. Portfolio management is for the case of investment. So you look at historical data, you look at various factors that are going around it. Actually today, it is lot of information has to come from social networks also. It's not that entire thing is available as a data itself. You do a lot of text mining, bring that part of information also into it and make a appropriate judgmental assessment of the credit or the portfolio. Then you have got the predictive analytics, which can be used for both defaults and also for frauds. The defaults, particularly bank has to worry about whether this is good. See, even early payment is a problem to the bank. Suppose bank has lent you a house and the borrower is willing to pay back much earlier than what it is due. There are issues to the banks. Either early payment or delinquency, these are all the things that should be predictable. And uncovering hidden correlations between customer characters and behavior. This is the most important thing. See, we don't even know the question that is to ask, but the data can give a lot of information which can be used. That is hidden meanings. I mean, there are a lot of tools available to it and that can be used. And detecting patterns and frauds, and this has to be done on real-time basis. I mean, a fraud it's like digital forensics is one thing which we'll do later, but a fraud has to be detected online, which is the example that earlier speaker was also telling. When something is happening, we can track to the actual place where it is. So what is the pattern of frauds in case of credit cards, ATMs, internet banking? Now we'll be able to make a fraud detect early, and this is to be done on real-time basis. There's a big issue here. No, there will be false alarms. This is the biggest issue when you are implementing analytics. And there is a business set of people, and the analytics keep throwing out alarms, and quite a bit of number may turn out to be false alarms. Now the organization has to come to a culture where number of alarms, even if there are more, they should be able to accept it, because the system over a period of time can learn it. This is a self-learning process. Initially there will be false alarms, but the system acceptability is very, very important in organizations. So we can always say this analytics is throwing too many alarms, it's useless, and we don't use it. We can use it and find that it can be fine-tuned to get a self-learning process into the system. So all these algorithms are possible in today's world. Now I just want to not discuss too many things, but the type of tools that are available are classification and clustering. These are all statistical tools generally. Correlations, regression, association, rule mining, pattern recognition, deviation detection, and lot is happening on machine learning, artificial neural networks and all that. So these are the type of tools that can be used. I don't want to get into any product per se, because we generally want to remain product agnostic, but lot can be done using open source. And that can be the best way most of the companies and banks can start using the analytics part of it. R is a well-known thing, most of us keep using it. You've got RapidMiner, OpenN. This list is not exhaustive, but just to give a flavor that it is possible to build system using open source. Now I am not here for a debate which is better, but open source has its own advantages because the companies can build their own products which are required for their particular systems. Now the lot that can be read, and I just want to use the word Google, because Google uses the maximum analytical power that is necessary for it to give a lot of things that are there for us. And for anything we need, we go to Google and we'll certainly be able to get it. This is what I just thought would flag, that in institutional support, to the way analytics can be used is something which bridges the gap between the fundamental research that is going on and the applied that is capable of doing. And in the case of the banks, IDRBT plays a major role. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. When do you have to leave? We have some time. May I now ask Professor Pulak Ghosh to say a few words?
Hi everybody, here I am again. I'm supposed to talk about academic collaboration and all those. So I'll talk something based on my experience. So I'll build on to some 10-11 year back when I passed out of my Masters in Statistics from Calcutta and gone to do a PhD. So when I was in my Masters, we learned statistics extremely theoretically. In measured theoretic approach, let's say let X be a random variable and so on and so forth. And I always used to think, this is, I made a big mistake. I shouldn't have taken statistics because it's all abstract. Then I gone to do PhD in US, and the same X be the random variable is told to me as let X be the blood pressure for the patient in the hospital. And I started connecting with it. For the first time in my life, I thought, okay, statistics can be applied. From then on, pretty much that's what I'm doing. So why I'm telling this example is that is pretty much what is happening in the analytics industry in India right now. We have tons of engineers who, without offending anybody, neither know the math that well, nor know the stat, nor know the programming. And you need all three to become a good analytics person. The problem is we produce statisticians who are extremely good in modeling things when you tell them exactly what to do, but they obviously don't have the business acumen, obviously. You go to the MBAs, like we produce MBAs, we are very proud of them, and they know the business, but they really don't know the mechanism how to solve it. And none of the institute in India is merging it. So there is no way that you know both. So that's the problem, and that's what we see. So we have an analytics program, business analytics programs in IMB. I'm one of the co-director, and every year when the students come, that's the challenge, that what do I make them learn first? The stat, the programming, because despite producing so many computer scientists, most of us like to click on the software. We don't write our own code. And because we don't write our own code, we hardly understand the model mechanism behind it. And all we tell to the client is R square is 0.9. That's it. I remember a presentation last year, I think in our business analytics conference, from some company. The guy was making a presentation where R square is 0.98. And when I asked the question, how come your R square is 0.98? He answered me by saying, is that a problem? Okay, so I don't blame him, but this is where the status of academics is right now in terms of producing analytics professional. And the way I see it should be handled is some of the best institutes, IIT, IIM and ISI should put together a program where you learn, because this big data analytics, you need an enormous amount of technology aspect to it. Now compared to analytics part of technology is usually a little slow. So if there is a good technology comes, stays there for 2-3 years. If there is a good analytics tool comes, gone in 6 months. There is a new challenge. So there needs to be at least 3 this kind of institute need to come in where you need to know the technology side of it, the stat or applied math side of it, programming side of it, as well as a good marketing acumen. And I will tell you why this marketing understanding is so important. When I've done my PhD and I became assistant professor back in 2003 in Georgia State, obviously I was a very happy man, and my department chair told me, there is some question came from the medical department. Some doctors is writing a grant and they have some issues, can you look at it? So I gone to check it, and obviously it took me a while to figure out his question because I really don't know the medical field that well, although my PhD was in biostat. Later on, we did something with Bell Labs, and the same issue happens. I spend more time on understanding the business domain than in solving the problem. So you can see the need for either you team up in an interdisciplinary way, and the interdisciplinary research, honestly, very, very minimal in India. We have too much egos among our academic departments. If you look at our medical side, doctors think they know all the statistics, so there is no statistician in any of the case. Similarly, if you go to the companies, they will say, I have a analytics vertical, and all you see sitting there are IT professionals. Nothing wrong, but the team is not there. And partly we, the academic institutions, are to blame, and we are working in IMB, we are working on this. We're talking with IIT Bombay and as well as ISI Calcutta to come up with a 2-year program on analytics where they will spend 6 months in each one of those places, and so that is what we are doing. So that's pretty much what my take, that India has a lot of potential, but we really don't have a good analytics trained professional, and so we can lose the business. We can dream of this coming to us. Right now the analytics happens in India, in my experience, is very, very preliminary. It's mostly software driven. You know SPSS, you are in. You know SAS, you're in. How does SAS calculate it? Nobody knows. If that goes, we will lose the manpower pretty fast. So we need to gear up, and we need to develop mix of these different fields to actually cater to the analytics domain. Otherwise, it will be hard for us. That's where I'd stop.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh. So now we have two perspectives on institutions, and so let me add my perspective, since a couple of observations. In the last session we talked about innovations or the lack thereof in the Indian ecosystem. You see, since as a teacher I see students who come to me who have just been over a tough admission test. Okay, and I think it is in the preparation of this test that most innovation and creativity is squeezed out of the educational system, in the education system. It's a paradoxical. If you are a consumer, I have this concept of creator and consumer. If you are a consumer of coaching services, a consumer of the quota classes and stuff like that, you have a far higher chance of getting into the higher institutes of learning in this country than if you are a creative free thinker. It's highly unlikely for a creative free thinking student in this country to quickly get into an IIT or IIM. The ones who are consumers of coaching classes, they are the ones who get in. The creative people end up doing odd stuff in odd universities, in odd places. Okay, so they think this is the fundamental tragedy of our education system, which does not reward creativity but rewards consumption. As consumers, we are perpetually consuming. We consume television serials, we consume the web like mad, we download frantically, and cut and paste frantically from there. But rarely do we create anything. I say rarely, I'm not saying not, absolutely not, but we do not in general create. We use open source software, but we rarely contribute to open source software. Okay? Most of us are happy to download R, but how many of us contribute to R? India, small countries like Poland, Estonia, perhaps whose total population is less than the population of TCS, okay, or somewhat on similar levels. We have products coming out of there, okay, and yet we have army of programmers out here. So, what I try to teach is, forget about analytics. First, get into a mode of creation. Try to create something. Consumption is something that we are used to. And that is something very, very difficult for the Indian student. Because Indian students have been grilled to consume, not to create. Okay? Some of you may disagree with me, but that's fine. This is my position. For example, even in analytics, there is a small, I'll give an example of what is meant by creation. We know what is analytics. A lot of people believe that analytics is simply learning SAS and R. Please, that's not the case. There are many more things in analytics than learning a product like SAS and R. You need to understand there are statistical techniques, predictive techniques, but there are also things like creating data products. Let me give you an example of what I think is an example of a data product which was created by one of my students. It's an example, it's not a great data product. We are familiar with things like the top 10 book lists, the top 10 music charts and stuff like that. Today's top 10, last year's top 10, these are data products. Can we create a data product that is live? And that's what we were trying to do. We said that we shall be looking at the Twitter stream and dynamically generate the top 10 popular in any area. This student of mine was into automobile racing, Formula 1. So he was creating the popularity charts for the Formula 1 drivers, just by looking at the tweets, the inter-arrival times and stuff like that. So here we were saying that we were looking at data in real time and creating a data product. Okay, so this is what I would say is something called doing something creative, innovative, and creating a product. And as many of my friends in software industry will know, a product is a rarity in the Indian software environment. We're all services people. We rarely do products. So until we go and kind of get this going, this concept of creativity going, this concept of product going, I think our Ideopolis or Datapolis will just remain another sweatshop. So let's think along these lines and see how we can take this forward. We have a few minutes for some questions. So we have some time for questions, or sir, if you need to leave, you're fine. Okay. So the floor is open for questions, and we can try to answer as many questions as we can.